Welcome back. I am Largo, and today we're going to check out another SCP video. Today it's going to be SCP-056, A Beautiful Lady, I believe it is. Never heard of it before. This is a commenter suggestion, so thank you very much for that. Like I said, never heard of this one. Don't really know what it's about. It's an SCP, so it could be anything. So let's go ahead and dive right into it and find out what SCP-056 is.
Sometimes dealing with anomalies that could destroy the world with a flick of their wrist can get a little old. Sure, it definitely wouldn't be a good thing if the Devourer of Worlds, well, devoured the world, or if SCP-001 when day breaks turns us all into weird melty zombies, but it's almost impossible to conceive the sheer scale of destruction that an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario would cause. You'd almost be numb to it, if you even survived. In the words of SCP-2430 creator Joseph Stalin, the death of one man is a tragedy. The death of millions is a statistic. Okay, he didn't actually say that.
But sadly, it is kind of true. If you know one person that you know personally that passes, it's a sad event. But when you hear of a mass group like that, suddenly you almost become desensitized to it because it's almost hard to wrap your head around those kind of numbers,
But it's an appropriate quote either way.
Like what that really
Today we're
means.
talking about a much smaller, pettier kind of evil. Sure, this anomaly can kill people, and has many times in fact. But where it really gets its kicks is in making you feel like crap on a more emotional level. It's SCP-056. Ironically known by the nickname A Beautiful Person, because on the inside, this self-obsessed monster is anything but beautiful. This crafty creature spent what potentially could have been hundreds of years around humans before the SCP Foundation eventually located it and apprehended it, meaning you may have even run into it at some point or another before it was rightfully imprisoned. How do you know if you had a brush with SCP-056? Well, it's difficult to know for sure, but perhaps the biggest indicator is that it probably annoyed the living hell out of you. You see, SCP-056 is a sentient shapeshifter with a subtle mind-warping ability, whose entire reason for existence is using those abilities to make everyone around them feel incredibly inadequate. They don't have any kind of consistent or true form, only a consistent ethos, and that ethos is, anything you can do, I can do better. And we mean this in the most literal sense. Whenever SCP-056 is left with a person, an animal, or even an object, the second all eyes are taken off of it, it'll become a slightly better version of whatever it's encountering. If that thing in question is capable of thinking or feeling, it will not feel good about this development. Just like we said, it's probably not going to bring the world to its knees, but it sure would suck to know.
Okay, so they're a one-upper, right? It's the ultimate one-upper, right? I'm sure we all know those people. They're called one-uppers, right? Because they always got to get one up on you, right? So let's say you're telling a story. Oh, I went fishing. I caught a fish this big. The one-upper is going to come and go, yeah, well, when I went fishing, I caught a fish this big. And it doesn't matter what you do. The very next story, oh, I drank a 12-pack. The one-upper will be like, well, I drank a 24-pack. And just on and on and on. And it could be literally about anything, Oh, I got a new pair of shoes. And he's like, well, I got a better pair at home. Like, I went to college with a guy like this. It was constant. Just no matter what you said, he would have to chime in somehow and tell you how he's better, or how what he has is better, or something, right? Like, it's the one-upper mentality. And so we have a shape-shifting one-upper, a narcissistic Mr. Mime, or a very jealous Mystique. So we have the ultimate one-upper, which in the world of the SCP Foundation kind of brings some questions. My mind is already kind of thinking like, what if this particular SCP came into contact with a few other SCPs out there? For instance, obviously SCP-056 is attention seeking, has to have the attention be on it. It's very narcissistic. Then you know what other SCP is kind of narcissistic in that way and always wants to be looked at? The old Peanut. Right? The neck-breaking statue. I can't remember its SCP number right now, but the neck-breaking statue. What happens if you were to stick these two SCPs in the same room, right? Everyone would be forced to look at the statue, which would infuriate 056 because they're not getting any attention. So what would be the result of that? Does 056 then turn into a better version of the neck snapping statue? Does it turn into a statue and just stare at the other statue? Or does it turn into a statue that proceeds to then kill everyone who doesn't look at it? And at what point does that become a standoff between the two statues? Or what if you give her or it the possessive mask? What if you put that on there? Which personality takes over? Can that mask take over and possess a shapeshifter, which can completely turn into something that doesn't even have a face, like a table? How does it work? Tell me, SCP, how does it work?
SCP-056. Its lack of a consistent form makes SCP-056 a little difficult to think about visually, which was also the reason it was so hard to catch. But for the sake of consistency, we'll present it here with one of its favorite forms. A woman who's a real dead ringer for perfection. Famous actress Scarlett Johansson of Black Widow fame.
ScarJo. Good choice, not only because ScarJo's an attractive woman, but because she's famous. She's world famous, which automatically gives you access to people and places that you would not normally have access to just by the sake of your name, just because you're famous. Excellent choice. Excellent choice if you're going to be a shapeshifter that wants attention and wants VIP access.
Personally, I liked her as the computer in Her, but that's besides the point. So what is it really like to experience SCP-056's anomalous effects firsthand? Well, we'll take you through a little crash course in anomalous insecurity and frustration. Let's say that this creature in human form is one of your coworkers. When the Foundation discovered it, it was working in the fashion industry. But who knows what job it could have held before then. If it worked in your office, it was probably that one irritating coworker who always wore nicer clothes than you, had a brighter, wider smile, and much better hair. While you were thanklessly toiling away on the reports for the latest financial quarter, 056 was schmoozing with your boss on golf lunches, scoring perfect games and promotions one hole-in-one at a time. Of course, they'll tell you about it at the water cooler. Like everyone else who's feeling inadequate, maybe you buy yourself a new car. A vintage Cadillac convertible that makes you feel more like a gangster than an office drone. Awesome. That'll make all those feelings that you're not good enough go away. You even buy yourself a stylish pair of sunglasses and start cruising around town with the top down, hoping that everyone sees how cool you are now. But when you are stopped at a red light, you see someone approaching in the lane next to you. It's the latest Rolls-Royce Phantom in jet black. And who would be behind the wheel but SCP-056 in Armani shades that are much nicer than yours. It grins and nods to you in the mirrors, and you can feel your soul shriveling up inside you, only to be replaced by rage and resentment.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like this SCP, just because it's so different, right? Like they said in the beginning, it's not a world ender, it's not an XK class end of the world scenario. People aren't melting, buildings aren't crumbling. This is just an SCP that loves to piss you off, man. It's just like the ultimate troll.
Maybe later that month, you and all your coworkers are at a bar, enjoying drinks. Of course, SCP-056 is the best dressed one there, and is telling all the most interesting stories. Your jokes don't get any laughs, but 056 is bringing down the house with every word. Feeling ignored, you decide to get everyone around on you. 056 is a designated driver in its new Rolls-Royce, so you just decide to get them a Pepsi instead. However, by the time you return to their stool, they're nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, because you tried to give them a Pepsi, man. Who's buying Pepsi for people? Why are you buying Pepsi, bro? Gross.
A tall glass of Coca-Cola with ice cubes is sitting on the bar next to their seat. Perhaps one day you finally snap.
Yeah, see, he's already got... You brought Pepsi. He turned into a Coke because he knows it's better.
Then decide you can't take it anymore. You'll meet SCP-056 after work and put the showboating jerk in its place at long last. You sneak up on it in an alley with a knife in your palm and swing for it, but your blade never makes contact. SCP-056 unleashes some high-level jujitsu move on you, easily knocks the knife from your hands and beats the living hell out of you. When you're later convicted of attempted murder, all you can do is scream, "They made me do it," again and again in your prison cell. Envy can do crazy things to a person, but wait, there's more. Really, if you lose your mind from an encounter with SCP-056, you still haven't done too badly. While its methods of attack are more commonly psychological, as we alluded to earlier, SCP-056
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but its anomalous ability is to be able to shapeshift, correct? Or is it also does it actually have like mind-altering properties? Or is that just a side effect of like the shapeshifting? Like, that's my question. Like, if you were a strong enough willed person to where you were just like, well, I don't care if people like them better than me, because there's people out there who don't want attention. They don't like the spotlight. They don't want to be up front. They don't want to have the microphone. They don't want to do that stuff. They would much rather be in the back, behind the stage, in the shadows, working backstage. Like, there's people that would rather do that than be a public figure. So what if 056 just comes across someone like that who just doesn't care? And they're just like, yeah, dude, go be cool, stand up, have all the attention. I don't want any of it. Like, would they be affected by it? Like, that's my question. Is the powers of 056 actually able to affect your mind against your will? Or are people just going crazy as a side effect of their own insecurities because they can't stand having this perfect one-upper around them?
056 is definitely not above committing some pretty horrifying acts of violence. SCP-056 was discovered in its clothing design job after causing an unusually high number of murders, suicides, and mental breakdowns among its co-workers.
Okay,
However,
right.
things took an even more unpleasant turn when the Foundation sent personnel to detain it. SCP-056 reacted poorly to the show of potential force and turned into something even more dangerous than the Foundation planned for it in getting under control. We don't know exactly what it transformed into due to SCP Foundation redactions, but our guesses for what it transformed into would either be a giant monster, a Rambo-esque unstoppable super soldier, or something like one of those huge killer robots from RoboCop. Pick your favorite down there in the comment.
I would say probably a super soldier, because if the creature's whole concept is whatever you can do, I can do better. Well, if they sent a bunch of soldier MTF guys in there, some special forces dudes, then yeah, they probably walked in there and she turned into like the Predator and just started hunting dudes down.
But whatever the case, it caused the unfortunate deaths of 17 agents and 10 civilians. The incident was blamed on an employee at the company going postal and deciding to kill a bunch of innocents, which technically wasn't untrue. Not long after, Foundation operatives were able to tranquilize SCP-056. Perhaps you think this nasty little monster decided to mellow out a bit after being contained. But if you did think that, I'm afraid you'd be dead wrong. It just decided to start terrorizing Foundation staff with its infuriating anomalous abilities instead. Wait until you see this. Compared to a lot of entities locked up at the SCP Foundation, SCP-056 really lives in the lap of luxury.
Yeah, I say
so. It has a
so.
well-furnished room, easy access to members of staff, and is given permission to interact with any object it desires, as long as those objects aren't anomalous. Why is this Euclid-class anomaly with over 17 dead Foundation staff members to its name given so much leeway? Well, to answer that, remember the ethos, anything you can do, I can do better. And this holds true, whether we're talking about physical appearance or one's capacity to commit tremendous acts of violence. The Foundation is forced to cater to most of SCP-056's whims, or it will become a hell of a lot more dangerous in response to any kind of external resistance. See? We told you it'd suck to have known this thing.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, you've got far more dangerous things in containment, so giving it what it wants because you're afraid of it hurting you kind of doesn't make sense, right? Because literally almost every cell in that hallway that you're going to walk down in an SCP Foundation facility is going to have something that can kill you or everybody you know or the entire world. Like, I mean, they don't give the indestructible reptile what he wants, and they're afraid of him for the same reason, because he could just break out and kill everybody. I don't see why she's catered to. Like, what exactly would she do if you just threw her into a metal box? I mean, what? I mean, we've shown that she can clearly be sedated with chemicals. Okay, so lock her in a metal box, aerosolize those chemicals. If she starts acting up, gas the room. Done. I don't I don't see the point why you're like bending over backwards for this particular SCP. The one thing that I really need to know that would affect my perspective on this SCP is, does it have mind altering abilities? If it does, then okay, maybe I can see why they do this. If it doesn't and she can just shapeshift, I don't know. I still don't see why they couldn't just lock her in a box like they do everyone else.
And nobody knows that better than the employees of the SCP Foundation, who are forced to interact with it on a daily basis for containment and testing. First, let's take a look at some of the forms it's occupied since it began its time at the SCP Foundation. When a researcher brought in their beloved pooch, SCP-056 decided to flex on it by becoming a beautiful, well-groomed Labrador Retriever. When a younger female staff passed it, it decided to once again take on its Scarlett Johansson form. When speaking to a group of other researchers about intelligence, it became a female researcher with an IQ score 30 points higher than the top-scoring human researcher on site. When it took a trip to the containment site's gym, where the guards and mobile task forces exercise and train, it decided to take its flexes to a more literal level. It transformed into a ripped, hunky bodybuilder, who strutted into the middle of the gym and bench pressed 250 kilos no problem. This was 30 kilos more than the strongest human guard working at the site. Its commitment to being the best is so great that when left alone in its containment chamber, it will sometimes literally transform into a nicer couch than the one the Foundation provided for it. Doesn't it just make your blood boil? But wait, there's more. Just in case this wasn't absurd enough, the Foundation felt like testing the limits of its anomalous abilities. In particular, they were extremely eager to see if 056 had a secret default form. They left it alone with a single security camera in order to observe what it transformed into when not being observed. And can you guess what happened? It turned into an even higher quality security camera and stared back. While the transformations can only take place while 056 isn't being observed, it's very astute at creating periods where it can't be seen or interacted with. Vision or camera feeds have been known to briefly go foggy in order to facilitate a transformation.
The Foundation has SCPs in containment that do similar things. Again, with the neck-snapping peanut statue, he can only move when he's not being observed, much in the same way 056 here can't transform unless it's not being observed. So it seems like not only is this thing narcissistic and can kind of be like reversed psychologied into transforming into something non-beneficial. So example, they put a camera in its room, it changed into a camera. Well, guess what? You know, it's super easy to contain a camera on the wall. Like if that's how easy it is to get it to transform into something you want it to transform into, again, why do you coddle to it so much? Why does it have its own special containment facility that looks like a lavish hotel room? Like, why are you so afraid of it? Like, why can't you just be like, okay, I've got the best marble in the world and set it down on a table in a box or something, and it'll just transform into another marble. Okay, congratulations. Now it's a marble. Now you get one of those eye bots or whatever it was that the SCP Foundation has. It's just an eye that can't blink and can't look away. Congratulations, you permanently contain this in a state where it can't do anything to anyone. Either you've got more than one of those eye bots. You could put one permanently on station for the statue, one permanently on station here. Done. 2 SCPs permanently contained.
It's fitting that 056, being the ultimate diva, will only ever let people look at it on its own terms. It also seems to get off on causing shame, and the degree to which that statement is metaphorical is, well, open to interpretation. Staff members made insecure by its antics feel compelled to enter its cell and verbally berate it, at which point 056 will shame them even harder and send them out with their tail between their legs. It's like every toxic friend.
It has to be something that's like actually affecting their minds, because here they said that like even if you're just passing by the cell, you can be compelled to enter her containment cell and berate her like unprompted. So there's clearly something going on where it actually messes with people's minds. It goes beyond being able to transform into things and make people angry or jealous. It seems like it's actually infecting their mind and changing them from the outside in, right? An outside force is invading their mind, changing the way they think, which is then causing them to act out in ways they wouldn't normally. So it's more than just regular jealousy or anger at somebody being better than you. This thing is actually messing with people's brains.
Nasty package. Curious as to what else SCP-056 was capable of, the Foundation conducted a few other tests between SCP-056 and their personnel. Here they discovered that 056 seemed incredibly responsive to intent. When a D-Class was sent in with a knife and the intent to kill, 056 transformed into a lean, athletic man before disarming and killing the D-Class. A somewhat attractive D-Class female was sent in with a bottle of wine. 056 became a beautiful woman and accepted the wine, before taking a sip and spitting it back into the D-Class's face. A mixed-gender pair of D-Classes were sent in next with no real intent. 056 became an attractive woman in a well-tailored business suit, who looked over the pair before kicking them both out. 10 male D-Classes were sent in after that. 056 turned into a beautiful woman in a low-cut dress and simply waited until the 10 men were driven mad with desire and began physically fighting one another for her affection. She watched them doing this for 7 minutes before laughing and leaving the Simp Squadron to duke it out alone. In another test, a female staff member...
He called him the Simp Squadron. Yo, if they have a dedicated MTF team for 056, that's what they need to be called. Send in MTF 410, the Simp Squad.
with level 4 clearance, who was also judged to be the most attractive woman on site, which seems like an HR issue that the ethics committee should probably look into, was sent into 056's testing chamber. 056 became, quote, an extremely aesthetically pleasing woman who displayed a large lexicon and understanding of management skills, unquote. The two spoke for around 90 minutes until the level 4 staff member stormed out in a rage. Recently, 056 has requested access to the internet, saying that the Foundation has been unable to provide it with enough sycophants, and that via the internet the whole world will be able to see its face. If ever 056 got onto YouTube and transformed into a more successful SCP channel, I just don't think we'd be able to take it. Thankfully, this request was denied.
Alright guys, that was SCP-056, A Beautiful Person. Now, it's kind of interesting, the whole anything you can do, I can do better. The whole one-upper attitude distilled into a single SCP. I could definitely see how this SCP could be annoying and frustrating and angry and could definitely manipulate people to act against their own interests. It seems a little vague on how its powers actually work. It seems like it does, in fact, affect the person's brain directly. I guess some of it's based on intent. They sent that one couple in there, right? One male, one female, didn't give them any direction, no intent, and she basically just kicked them out of the room. She didn't do anything with them. She did literally nothing with them, didn't make them fight, didn't do anything, just kicked them out of the room because she was like, okay, these people are boring and I don't really want to play with them, basically. So again, like, what if you came across a person who just didn't care? Like, what happens when 056 runs into that one person who just doesn't give it, does not care? Like, does she then get angry? Is she the one that gets triggered at this point because none of her tricks work? That's what I'm curious about. I'd also like to see this one interact with a couple different SCPs. Like I said, it'd be interesting to see this one react with the possessive mask. How would this one react with the statue who demands everyone's attention is on it under penalty of death? I'm kind of curious about some SCP interactions, but I'm always curious about SCP interactions. SCP videos always bring up more questions than they answer, but that's just the name of the game when you're talking about SCPs. Overall, I did enjoy this one. It's nice to see a smaller, contained SCP that's not a giant world-ending thing with 4-hour-long videos that all interconnect, and it's good to just have a nice standalone SCP. To kind of get back to the roots of SCP, where you just have small little very interesting entries. Hope you enjoyed the reaction. If you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and consider smashing that subscribe button to help the channel grow. Most importantly, leave a comment down below. What other SCP videos do you want me to see, or videos in general you want me to react to? Leave them in the comments below and we can get to them in the future. As always, guys, thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for watching the video. Take care of yourselves and have a great day.